back. It's another pre-season preview. And this time, it's one of the new boys. It's the new boy. First top flight season since goodness knows when. I think it's at the 40s, maybe?
Something 1947 it is.
There we are,
47. Bang on.
47. And first Premier League season as well. Brentford, obviously. And joining me to do it, as always, is my ever-present podcasting partner, Alex. How are you doing? Another day.
Another day, another episode. The new boys. We had a bit of a clash in the old playoff final, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
As Swansea fans, but worthy winners. I have to say, worthy winners. We didn't turn up on the day, but yeah.
We didn't turn up at all, did we? But
no.
Yeah. Anyway, joining us on behalf of Brentford, representing the club today. I'll send him off. We're joined by Billy from the Beesotted Podcast. How are you doing, Billy?
I'm not too bad. How are you doing? Thanks for inviting me onto your show.
That's all right. Thank you for coming.
Weird coming onto a sort of a Premier League show because we're not used to this, to be quite honest with you. You know, so it's a bit of a novelty. So you can see me sort of smiling and just getting on with it, like, you know.
Good. Awesome. So, get used to it. Get used to it.
Definitely. Well, we'll see. We chat about the Swans a fair bit on this, but I think we decided to do this just to distract ourselves from everything that's going on with Swansea at the moment, because it's not particularly pleasant. But back to Brentford, which is why we're here. Sort of, have the nerves kicked in yet, or is it just pure excitement at this point?
No, tell you something. I'm feeling actually pretty relaxed. I mean, as you know, as I told you, I'm actually on holiday as well at the moment now. So I've managed to come down to the south coast and just sort of chill out before the season. It was a bit of a mad season, you know, like you guys, you know, went all the way to the wire, all the way to the end of May with the playoff final. So that was kind of quite full on, you know, the semi-final and the final, which were brilliant. So of course, like you just kept going and going and going on adrenaline, and had a few days break. The next minute it was up to Middlesbrough for the England game, and then went to all the England games as well. So, you know, so basically, you know, so it's been a mad football summer. Then all of a sudden that's finished, and then you think, oh no, the season's about to start, like, you know. So
you haven't had time to soak it in.
That's right. I haven't really had time to soak it in. And I think the only time that it kind of dropped a little bit was in the middle of the Euros, when they actually announced the fixtures. And then you thought, oh, we're playing Arsenal first. Oh, it's actually real. So that's when it actually really sunk in. But then after that, because there was such madness going on with England getting through to the final, it didn't really sink in until now, when all of a sudden you're starting to buy a few players. You know, we played Manchester United last night in a pre-season friendly, and we did all right in that. And you start to think, hold on a second, you know, this is becoming a bit real. So I'm still quite relaxed about it, but it's starting to ring home now.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Al, but I suppose the only thing I can sort of relate to is when Swansea went up for the first time, or the only time, 8, 9, 10. Well, it was more than that, wasn't it? It must be nearly 11, 12 years.
Yeah, now. Something like that. 2011 it was. So it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And,
but I remember the same thing. Like, obviously, when we went up, it was a lot, you know, we were a lot younger, and we were in school, and we were sort of all checking the fixtures and seeing who we'd have and all that. So I can sort of, you know, totally relate to the excitement. But I just want to ask quickly, did you end up getting tickets for the final? Did you go to Wembley?
I went to every single match.
Oh, did you?
I literally went to every single. I mean, this is my 15th tournament, so I go to England tournaments all the time. So.
Oh, sorry, no, not England. I was referring. No, that's fine. But you know, as a massive thing for England as well. I was talking about the Brentford Swansea game. Did you get
Brentford Swansea? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. Again, yes. I mean, again, it's one of those things where, you know, again, going to matches home and away, you build up your points. I think we did it. I think you did it differently to you, where it seemed to be a straight up
was like
lottery.
A lottery.
Yeah. So, but for us, they had a loyalty system in place. So if you've been going to matches, you built up your points over the matches, and then, you know, you were first in line, and then when those tickets sold, and the next lot came, and the next lot came. So that's kind of how it worked with that. And most of the people that I know actually went, and some of the people that didn't go, and the reason why they didn't go, I think, was because even though they were first in the lottery, because some of their friends were lower on the lottery, they didn't want to go without their friends because they just didn't think it was going to be right. So they decided to hold back. Or decided to, because at the time you had to book pubs at the time, and it's obviously really difficult to try and book pubs for a playoff final, you know, in the area. You had to sort of kind of put your name down. So they decided, tell you something, we'd rather know what we're doing. We'd rather go with our mates, and 10, 12, 14 of us can book a table in a pub now, rather than hang on and wait 2 days beforehand to see whether or not we've got a ticket. So I was lucky enough. I went with my daughter. and we went down to the final. And yeah, it was brilliant because, for the first time out of 10, we actually won a final. The number 9, I've seen us lose all the other 9 games. I've seen us lose when Brentford have been in the playoffs. So for this one, it was equally gratifying because we actually won a playoff final, and we also won it. And again, you were at the game, so you saw it was actually there was no heart flutter moments either as well. There was no heart flutter moments. It was just totally easy going, and it was a bit weird because having been to, like I said, to all the playoff losses that we've been to, and normally people come out the stadium and they're normally angry and shouting things and just whatever they do, to try and get it off their chest. But this time, I came out the stadium and people were literally just walking around the stadium like they were lost because they didn't know what to do or to say. It was quite bizarre, So, and it was quite a surreal feeling because you'd won, and then you sort of kind of think, right, we've been waiting for this moment for years. Some people, for me, it's like 30, 40 years you've been waiting for this moment, and then all of a sudden you've won. You think, what comes next? What do we do? Like, well, let's go to the pub and celebrate. It was quite strange, but it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, to be fair, we've had a bit of a rivalry with Brentford. The Swans
last couple of years,
but I think they're going to light up the Premier League. I think it's going to be exciting to have another team there. I love having a new team there. When Huddersfield came up, it's just wonderful. It's having a new name there that hasn't been there before. It's not a yo-yo club like Norwich, with all due respect. But I think
Brentford you have earned it as well. I can't take 100%. It away. Head and shoulders above, most, except for the top 2 in the Championship, but most of the teams in the Championship, you bossed it. Playing good football as well. It's not been sort of wishy-washy. It's been good football. So, again, worthy winners as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I appreciate it. Listen, at the end of the day, the beef, as we say, between yourselves, it kind of comes out of football. And the fact is that if you haven't got a little bit of beef in football, then what's the point in going?
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously the beef came out of, what managers said, what players have said, what players have done. Fans have natural reactions. And so that's what you expect. And I think also for us, for you guys, obviously you played us beforehand, and for whatever reason, there was a bit of beef in Brentford. And for us, Fulham had gone up, so we needed someone to start needling, So you managed to take over for the season. So it kind of worked in both of our favours, really, I think.
Lovely. In terms of the transfer market, 2 signings brought in, if I'm correct in saying that. I think it's 2 on Onyeka and Ajer. I don't know.
Ajer, who knows?
Yeah. But he's decent. I've seen him a couple of times play for Celtic, and he was their best defender. He's now left them. God knows where that leaves them. But I think again, a tiny bit of business from Brentford. You have this knack of just getting players. You use a sort of performance system, don't you? You look at leagues and you look at teams who are overachieving and players who are overachieving. And I think that's your scouting system. And it's just worked a treat. It's worked an absolute treat.
Yeah, well, again, a lot of people know this. In the Championship, they know it. In the Premier League, they're starting to get to know it. But, when our owner basically owns a betting company, and he's a mathematician. He's a genius. He's also a massive Brentford fan. So when he took over the club, he says, when I take them over, I want them to I want them to play passing football. That's what I want them to do. I want us to develop youngsters, and I want to use the system that I have for my company to actually find players that no one else knows about. Because he goes, basically, that's what I do. I've got people in my office who just all they do all day is just research players, and they find out stats and facts, which basically help me to make money. That's what he said I'll do. And these stats and facts, if I can apply them to a football club, I can find players who are undervalued, who people think aren't particularly great, or they're not going to do very much for them. But what we'll do is we'll take them, and then we'll make the parts of them that aren't so good better over a year or 2. And then afterwards, they'll become key players for us. And it really has worked for us. Yeah, there's been a few ones that haven't worked out, but, of course, you're going to get situations where you try something and it doesn't quite work out. But over and all, it's worked out, fantastic for us. And they do know what they're doing. As fans, when we first we got involved. When they started getting involved and they started to sign players up, and we had Andre Gray come, and we thought, fantastic. Oh, we got this guy for 500 grand, and all of a sudden he scored 18 goals for us. And then in the summer, we were going to sell him 12 months later, and the fans were up in arms, like, what are you doing, Brentford? And there really was like a lot of vitriol and anger that we were selling this player that we finally found that scored goals. And Brentford said, don't worry about it. You'll find someone better. And we're like, no, you won't. And then we sold him, and then after that, we found, I think Scott Hogan was there, and he came through, and then he scored loads of goals, and then they sold him. We're like, no, you can't do that again. They said, don't worry, we'll find someone better. And every time they found, like, it was on Lasse Vibe, then it was Neil Maupay, and then it was Ollie Watkins, and then it was, it just kept going on and on. We just kept on getting new players. And after a while, the fans started to calm down a little bit. Every time we sort of sold a player and just trusted the system and just thought, they seem to know what they're doing now. So it's not so bad for us. So yes, we've actually bought 3 players so far in the closed window. Okay. Yeah, we bought Aya, who's we just bought in from Celtic, who again, I haven't seen Celtic play that much, but looking and speaking to, on the Pride of West London podcast, which is prideofwest.london, which is the podcast we do. We've actually done 3 interviews, one with a Celtic fan who actually does given us a brilliant lowdown of Aya. And like I said to you, Champions League playing games he's played, Europa League games he's played. He's a proper leader for Celtic. They think that he's a fantastic ball-playing centre-back, and he's going to do really well for us. So again, apparently Brentford have been looking at him for years. He's from Scandinavia, and we know the Scandinavian market very well. So he came out of Norway. I think he captained his side start, I think they were called, when he was 16. So at that stage, we were actually looking at him, which is about 6 or so years ago. He went off to Celtic, so we just kept our eye on him. And I think when the moment came, the opportunity came, he had a year to go on his contract, which is running down. And we offered them, decent money for the fact that he's only got a year on his contract, and he's come to us. So we got him. But we've also got this other player, which he sounds really exciting, which I don't think anyone in the UK would really know at all. This guy called Frank Onyeka. And he's actually come from SC Midtjylland, which is actually the club which our owner, Matthew Benham, owns in Denmark. We never used to do any business with our sister club over in Denmark, because he believed in keeping the 2 businesses separate. He said, I'm not going to do any business between the 2. I'm going to keep them completely separate. But now that we've got to the Premier League, he realizes that, in Denmark, when you get to a certain level, this next stepping stone is to step out of Denmark to Europe. So either to Italy or possibly to Spain, but, to Italy or to the UK. And so, instead of him going to someone in the UK like Aston Villa or Newcastle or wherever like that, he's come to us. So we've actually bought a player from our sister club. He cost about £10 million. And he was the best player in the Danish league. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He's like a Duracell bunny, so he doesn't stop going. He knows how to pass. He's really strong. He's got a lot of energy. So this is actually going to be a really interesting addition to our side. And again, he's going to come out. He's going to come out of the blue. So let's see how he goes. But he came on for a few minutes against Manchester United, and we thought, okay, that's quite interesting. So we've got him as well. Then we've got this other kid who's just come out of Chelsea. He's come out of the Chelsea Academy. His name's Miles Peart-Harris as well. And a lot of Chelsea fans were actually a little bit upset because he wasn't given an extended contract. His contract was running down, so he came to us. Not sure what we signed him. Probably signed him for about 2 million. And the Chelsea fans are a bit gutted because they're thinking that the players that we've had in the past who went to Championship club, we loaned them out there for a bit, and after they came back and they've gone into our first team and they've become key players. They believe that he can be one of them. But Chelsea, Tuchel's in there, and he's obviously thinking, I can't give him game time at the moment now because my job is to win the league, win the Champions League, win everything at the moment now. So they've decided to pass him on. And again, we had a Chelsea fan on our podcast, Pride of West London podcast, and he spoke to us again about this guy, and he just said to us, he is, if you can get him on form and get him fit and get him playing with you, he said he knows where the goal is. He has got an eye for a pass. He's a great creative player. And so again, we sort of kind of seem to have plucked a player out of the blue there, in this kid. So we've got these 3 players who've come to supplement the squad that we've got already, which was players like Norgard, who obviously played in the World Cup semi against England for Denmark as well. We've got Jensen again, who played in the World Cup semi for Denmark against England. 2 brilliant players. Norgard he's a proper key player. He at the base of the midfield, created a central defensive midfielder, and he's the one who he was actually injured for most of last season, and I think we were going to base our game around him. And when he got injured, it kind of scuppered us a little bit. And that's why we kind of, we were about 18th in October, I think it was October or November. And we actually had to come back from that. But we didn't quite know how to handle that player there. And when he came back, we just noticed the difference in how much we missed him, so players like him. And also another player I've got to mention is Brian Mbumo, who last season, again, you know him because I think he scored against you the season before.
Did, yeah.
I think in the playoffs.
I was looking at his name. I got my notes and his name did pop out to me then, Mbumo. But yeah, he is quality. He was quality.
He was quality, but he was quality. That year we had, obviously, remember Watkins, Benrahma and Mbumo, the BMW as they call them, and also we had Josh De Silva as well, and they were just knocking goals in for fun. So, but then Mbumo came back after the lockdown, and he actually got COVID. So after the lockdown, he wasn't as on fire as he was beforehand, and he kind of tailed off a little bit, and you could see in his form he tailed off a little bit. And then that's so that season, he wasn't necessarily the player that he was. And then the following season again, when Watkins and Benrahma had left, he just he scored goals and he's got some assists. But everyone's like, Brian's not the same player. I wonder if he's just a one-season wonder. A lot of people wondering. But I think that the break came. He went away on holiday. He had his rest. He's finally got over the COVID that he had. Maybe it might be long COVID that he's had. And I saw him play went to AFC Wimbledon, saw us play at AFC Wimbledon in their new stadium. So I was very lucky to be one of the about 5 Brentford fans in that game. And he was brilliant. He was on fire. He was on the ball again. And then against Manchester United, only last night, he scored a brilliant goal. If you want to go and check it out, the way that he just touched the ball, cut it inside and just curved it into the corner. And I thought, that's Mbumo of old. That's Mbumo of the Ollie Watkins era. So I'm hoping if he comes back, he's going to be like a new player for us. And I think hopefully in the Premier League, when you've got a bit more time, a little bit more space, on the ball, you haven't got teams kind of sort of hammering you all the time. Hopefully players like that will actually kind of really benefit from being in that environment. So so let's see.
Exactly,
so you've picked out Norgard, you've picked out Mbumo. I feel like we can't do a Brentford preseason preview without mentioning Mr Ivan Toney. It's got to be mentioned. I mean, I was guilty, and you might not like me for this, Billy, but I think too many of his goals were penalties last year for people to beat Raven that much. But he's quality.
31 goals. Quickly though, 31 goals is no mean feat in the Championship.
No, that's what I'm not by no means saying he's a bad player.
I know, 100%. But they were a lot of penalties.
There were a lot of penalties, but I am excited. Put it this way, he's straight in my fantasy team. He's gone straight in my fantasy football team. I'm excited to see if he can do it in the Premier League because, like you said, if he does it in the Premier League, though, it'll be interesting to see whether say if he scores 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League this season, should a bid come in next summer, would your owners go, well, actually, if you stay up, which I think you've
replaced strikers before. Why not?
But will they? If you're Premier League, do you think that do you think he's here for the long haul?
I tell you something. It totally depends. If somebody came in and offered us 70 million for him, I think they'll probably sell him.
Bite your arm off. Yeah.
So it just depends on the situation, and it depends on where he is, how comfortable he is, who's going to offer. If they come in, and again, this is with all due respect, if sort of Norwich come in and say, right, we want Ivan Toney for 30 million. He's going to say, well, I'm not going to go to Norwich or I'm going to stay at Brentford. I'm not sure. So, what I'm saying? So it just depends on the situation.
A club like Norwich, I think you can look at them as sort of rivals this season. Like they're going to be in and around, where you're expected to be. So to sell to a club like that, I don't think, your owner, like you said, he's a smart guy. I can't see it going, that way. But
no. But but the thing about Ivan, it's interesting you talk about the penalties. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Then, how many penalties did he miss last season?
Couldn't tell you.
Not too many, I don't think. Not too many.
He missed many.
I'm saying this now because I put myself on the spot. I'm pretty sure that he didn't miss any. Okay, right. Okay, he might miss one, but I'm pretty sure that he didn't miss a penalty.
It doesn't surprise me, and he strikes like. We both went to the final. You were there, Brentford side. I was there, Swansea side, and I caught a fantastic glimpse of what was nearly 3-0. I don't know if you remember it, but Ivan Toney, he turned. I can't remember. I think Woodman must have kicked it out. He chested down, turned, and he just whacked it from
Yeah,
you know, 25, 30, 35
that
yards.
Is the,
just hit the bar.
That's the point of the playoff final where I left my house to go for a walk to come.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm saying is, like, I know, you know, we talk about his penalties, but he's not all penalties. He's got that quality. He knows exactly where the goal is.
Right. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to say this because, and the reason why I'm saying that is that, listen, you know, you can say what you want, but the fact is that anyone would want a player like that on their side, because first of all,
100%.
he puts the penalties away. Okay, whether or not it's him getting them or somebody else getting them, okay, he puts them away. That's the first thing. The second thing is that he's always in the right place, or nearly always in the right place at the right time. Okay, now, again, if you play the statistical game that we get, it's about basically putting yourself in the right position. So Brentford, we create a lot of chances. So if you create a lot of chances and you put the ball into the area, and the person who's in the area or is doing that he's either created the chances himself or he's in the right area to deliver that ball, and he is a very good striker and put them in the back of the net, then that is a very good position to be in. And the good thing about Ivan Toney is that he seems to know to be in the right place at the right time and create the right opportunities. So that's why he's been so prolific in scoring his goals. The other thing I'll say to you is that a lot of people don't know that also the other things that he does, because if you ever look at him, his game, his all-round game, if he's not in the middle as well, he'll be on the wing. He'll be trying to set things up, or he plays a lot in defence as well, actually kind of helping his defenders out a real lot. So if you look at him, he actually plays really deep. So the reason why I actually really like him is that, and I think why Thomas Frank loves him, is that his all-round game is fantastic. So this also causes a problem because, again, with our side, I mean, he scored a lot of goals last season, so they could say, right, if we can single out Ivan Toney, you know, we can probably sort of just, you know, stop Brentford from scoring. Whereas the season before, when we had, you know, Mbeumo, Benrahma, you know, Watkins and De Silva all scoring, if they put 2 or 3 players on Watkins, and then Mbeumo's thinking, thank you very much, you left me alone, so he's kind of scoring. So this year, I think you're going to see a lot more of Brentford are looking to try and get goals from all around the park as well, in much more different positions. So it's not necessarily about the striker, it's about having a team who can create chances, and then whether or not it's Mbeumo scoring, or whether or not it's Canos scoring, whether or not it's Onyeka scoring, you know, whether or not it's Norgard coming from centre defence and scoring, you know, whether or not it's Jensen doing the business, all of a sudden that creates problems for other people. So it's not about Toney, because I noticed that Man United, you know, when he got the ball, he didn't look 100% kind of fit for the season as such. Plus, he had 2 or 3 very good defenders kind of on him, making sure that he couldn't do what he was going to do against Man U. And we didn't necessarily have our full team out in that game because we played a lot of kind of, you know, second string sort of kind of squad players as well. So it's mixed up. So he wasn't necessarily working with the players that he'd be working with normally. So he didn't get as many chances in that game as he would have done. So it just made me think, okay, what happens if Ivan Toney doesn't get the chances he's going to get? We have to make sure that we're going to have other players out there on the pitch that are going to take advantage of that. And obviously Mbeumo did that last night because, you know, they're off trying to mark Toney, and he just picked up the ball and went boom, 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 bang in the back of the net. And that's the kind of stuff that we like to see. So I think it could be quite exciting for Brentford. I think the first 3 or 4 games are going to be quite telling. We've got Arsenal at home to start off with, and then we've got Crystal Palace away, and then we've got Aston Villa away, and then we've got, I think we've got Brighton coming up after that. So we've got the first 4 games, I think, are going to be quite interesting to see kind of where we sit, and if we get ourselves, you know, half decent results out of that, which I mean that, you know, I know some teams have gone in and they pretty much haven't won a game for, you know, 3, 4, 5 months. But if we can get, you know, results, a few draws out of that, make sure that we don't lose too many, you know, and just set ourselves up quite nicely, then that will give them confidence to think, I'll tell you something, actually, it's we've done the sightseeing, you know what I'm saying? We've walked in the stadium, had a little look. We've done that now. We can just now get on with the job rather than be constantly nervous about, you know, having to make sure that we don't, you know, lose another 3 points and all this kind of stuff, which I think the negative cycle is what a lot of teams get into when they get into the Premier League.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
We are coming to the end, but thank you. This has been fantastic. Before we go, I just want to get 2 little predictions from you. Number 1, where do you think you're going to finish? And number 2, if there was somebody who had never watched a Brentford game before going into the season, who is your man to watch?
Ooh. Well, okay. I think predictions are unfair as a new team because especially as a new team that hasn't been in the league for 70.
Let's rephrase it quickly. Are you gonna stay up this season?
My personal opinion is I think that if we do what we do and if we play like Brentford and don't try and change things like we did against Fulham last season in the playoff final, where I think we're trying to be a bit too clever and we play our football and our players play their strengths and we're not unlucky with injuries as well, then I think that we've got I think we've got a very good chance of staying up. We beat, we got the semi-final of the League Cup last season and we lost out to Tottenham where we kind of ran out of steam a little bit, but we didn't embarrass ourselves. We lost I think it was 2-1 to them. The games are so thick and fast, I can't even remember the score. In the semi-final of the League Cup, we knocked out Newcastle, we knocked out West Brom, we knocked out Southampton, we knocked out a load of Premier League teams there, and that was kind of with our sort of A B plus team as well. It wasn't even our full-on A team with that. So we're confident against going up against these teams. After the first 15 minutes of Man United yesterday, I know that both of us are the mix of teams. We looked a little bit. In the first 15 minutes, we like a little bit red in the headlights, but after that, we looked totally at ease. So looking at things like that, I think as long as we continue to do what we're going to do, I think that we have a very good chance of staying up. And that's me being diplomatic there.
We love it.
And your player to watch?
Player to watch.
It's difficult this without me reading through them all. And listen, you all know about Ivan Toney, so it's boring for me to go and say Ivan Toney. And also, it's difficult for me to talk about the new players because I've not seen them play myself. I've already talked about them, and I think there's some exciting players there. A player that I think Norgard is a brilliant CDM, central, defensive midfielder. He breaks up the play. He's a really clever player. He used to be an attacking midfielder as well, so he knows a pass. So I think, watch out for Norgard because if he's on his game, he's a very clever player. And hopefully he'll smash up the Premier League.
There we are. Watch out
Fantastic.
for Norgard. Thank you once again, Billy, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to take a second to plug where people can find your podcasts?
Yeah. So listen, if you want to check us out, we're Beesotted, BEESOTTED. So you catch us on Twitter. Beesotted 1992 on Instagram, which we might fire up because we haven't had that really up and going. And also, we've got a podcast which is prideofwest.london, and we've done 800 episodes nearly now as well. So yeah, we've been going for a while, and like I said to you, our blog started off as a fanzine 30 odd years ago. So fanzine to blog to podcast to video blog to all sorts of stuff. We're everything to everybody, and we're just going to enjoy ourselves here. And if it goes well, it's fine, and if it doesn't, listen, we'll just go back to the Championship and we do it again because we quite like the Championship, to be quite honest with you. There's a lot of good teams and a lot of good people down there.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you for joining us. 800 episodes, Al. Do you reckon we'll get there one day?
We'll see. Don't put any pressure.
Thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting about the new boys. We'll be back tomorrow with, I think it's a Tottenham preview.
Might be Spurs, yeah.
But I can't promise that. But just come back and find out. You'll see eventually. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. Ta-ra.
Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Cheers.